According to history posted by the Dentzel company, today's carousels originated in the Middle East. Even so, the origins of the carousel can be traced back both to India as well as to Native America. Interestingly enough, the earliest carousels used in Europe during the centuries following the Crusades were a simulator for cavalry training. Over time, as with all military secrets, these trainers came into the mainstream. Carousels morphed into fun rides for the public. One of the reasons that most carousels turn counterclockwise dates back to their days as military trainers, since most knights were right-handed and carried their weapons in their right hands. They would execute several exercises while traveling counterclockwise in order to improve their lancing skills. One exercise involved picking off rings around the circumference of the training rig. Ironically, this might have led to another modern carousel tradition, the addition of the brass ring dispenser overhead. A skilled rider can time the approach to the dispenser, grab a ring, and then redeem it for a free ride. Carousels were originally powered either by humans, ponies, or horses. Extensions of the sweeps would either be pulled or pushed around the outside to create a spinning motion around the center axis. Carousels have long been the playground of craftsmen. Since the 18th century, ornate carving and luscious paintwork have graced these staples of amusement parks. As the Industrial Revolution marched forward, power for the operation of carousels reflected the inventions of the time. Muscle power was replaced with steam power. Steam engines gave way to gasoline engines, and finally the clean and reliable electric motor came to dominate the scene. Along with these new powerful sources of copious motive energy, a fundamental change to the design of the carousel was implemented. Instead of merely fixing or flying the seats as before, many were attached to poles driven by cranks that provides the well-known up and down motion to the animals and seats as the carousel spins. Another addition to the modern carousel was a band organ. Another offshoot of the Industrial Revolution, this is a combination of a multi-rank pipe organ, bells with clappers, and drums and cymbals, all of which are driven by an automated mechanism. Some band organs added elaborate lighting effects and carved figures which moved with the flow of the music. In the early 1800s, Michael Dentzel had a wagon-making business in what is now southern Germany. He began making carousels on the side because of the demand for these increasingly popular fun rides. As the demand continued growing, he sent one of his sons, Gustav, to America with a carousel. After the long ocean trip, Gustav settled in Philadelphia. Philadelphia was an emerging center of industrialization and manufacturing during the 1850s, and it hosted a growing German immigration presence. Gustav set up shop there in the 1850s, building cabinets and carousels. His two sons, William and Edward, continued the business until about 1927, when the business came to an end with the death of William. According to the Dentzel website, there are just over 24 of the original carousels remaining in service today. The others have succumbed to the ravages of time, fire, exposure to weather, and the scrounging activities of collectors. The most obvious parts of a carousel are the animals and chariots. Animals that are rigged to move up and down are called jumpers. and those that are not are called standers. The animals tend to be more intricately carved where they face towards the outside. The jumpers are connected by a steel pole that rides inside of a fixed brass sleeve. At the top of the steel pole is a rotating crank mechanism which is tied to the rotational movement of the carousel itself. The drum is the area surrounding the main axis of a carousel. Affixed to the drum are the drum boards, painted curved panels which cover the mechanism around the axle. At the top of the drum are the inner rounding boards, which generally contain three-dimensional plaster decorations, painting, and mirrors. The sweeps are the beams that extend along the top from the center pole axis outwards. Along the outer circumference of the carousel, generally attached to the canopy if there is one, or to the sweeps, are the outer rounding boards. These also are highly decorated with plaster decorations, paintings, and mirrors. Along the bottom of the carousel, under the sweeps and rounding boards, is the platform. Drop rods connect the sweeps to the platform, and the ride animals and chariots are affixed to it. The City of Burlington was founded around the time that the Dentzel family was becoming renowned for their carousels. In 1854, the North Carolina Railroad founded a small community in Alamance County called Company Shops to serve as the site of its maintenance shops. Company Shops was located several miles to the west of Graham, the county seat of Alamance County. As the end of the 19th century approached, the railroad presence had all but died out. So, in 1886, the community reformed under a new name, Burlington. Burlington became the center of a booming textile industry and the home of many mainstream mills, of which Burlington Industries ultimately arose to become the largest manufacturer of textiles in the world. Over the years of the 20th century, the Burlington area grew in population as it hosted a number of industries, including one of Fairchild Aircraft's manufacturing plants during the Second World War and one of Western Electric's electronics assembly plants during the 50s and 60s. The city also served as the hub for Alamance County's booming tobacco and food farming communities. Today, one of the largest clinical laboratory networks in the world, LabCorp, is headquartered in Burlington. Over the years, Burlington has grown alongside its adjacent communities. Burlington emerged as the largest city in its county with a population of about 50,000 in 2010, and today it continues to be the hub of commerce and industry in Alamance County. It is estimated that the carousel located in Burlington City Park was constructed sometime between 1906 and 1910. Some of its components date to the 1910 to 1920 era, probably due to repairs and replacement of parts. The carousel was purchased by Burlington from an Ohio amusement park in 1948. From its opening day and for the next 30-odd years, it formed a cornerstone of the amusement area at the park. This specific menagerie carousel contains 3 rows of animals and carriages. Each of the animals is hand-carved and exhibits the Dentzel trademark of realistic muscles and other distinctive features. The original design for this carousel was powered by a single-cylinder gasoline engine, but this was retrofitted to use an electric motor sometime prior to 1948. One vestige of this old power source is a clutch system to allow power from the engine to be smoothly applied to the carousel mechanism without stalling the engine. As with all things, over time the carousel started to show its age and its need for repair and a complete repainting. It had been repainted sometime prior to its purchase in 1948, but constant use and partial exposure to the weather had taken a toll on every aspect of the carousel. This historic carousel underwent a complete restoration starting in 1981. This time-consuming process brought the carousel back to its former glory. Research permitted the missing inner scenery panels to be recreated. The gaudy cartoon paint that had graced the outer running boards was painstakingly scraped off and revealed the wonderful original scenes painted by Dentzel's craftsmen. The animals were repaired, treated with a newly developed epoxy system, and then painted with luscious paintwork to approximate the original design. The pavilion was outfitted with rolling doors. The mechanical system was dismantled, repaired, completely overhauled, new components were reforged, and then everything was reassembled. Much of the restoration work was done by volunteers drawn from the industries, service organizations, and the entire community of Alamance County. On the last weekend in 1983, the carousel was reopened with great fanfare. The carousel was paired up once again with a new Stinson band organ. Today, the carousel continues to be the hub of Burlington City Park. It is a popular ride with both young and old alike. Every September, it is a center of attention when the park hosts the Burlington Carousel Festival, which attracts over 50,000 people during a single weekend. This carousel has been registered with the National Historic Register since 1984 and is truly a national treasure. Wrapped within it are a long pedigree of history, a story of immigration to America during the 1800s, a taste of the old world, a culmination of the American dream built by hard work and a do-not-give-up attitude, a testimony of painstaking handiwork that has stood the test of time, a heartwarming reminder of the helpfulness of volunteers, a love story of those whose pulse quickens when they hear the pa of a band organ, a joy both to children and to the child at heart, and a reminder of how strong a bond something so intrinsically beautiful can be to a community.